Okay, you have no idea how many times I've practiced his name and how nervous I am here on a video for the first time to hopefully get it right. Matvei Michkov. I think I nailed it on the first try because I know a lot of North Americans are going to say Matvei Michkov. Well, if I'm lucky enough to broadcast hockey for another 15 or so years and he's in the league, I want to try and at least get it right. Establish the foundation of getting this young man's name pronounced right because I hope to be around for a while. I certainly hope he is too. This is a player draft preview profile. It's confusing. Look, I'm profiling all of the potential top picks in the 2023 NHL draft. And later on in this video, we'll talk specifically about the Sharks' chances of landing this player, but also some of the stipulations that he comes with that would make it a little bit of an interesting, dare I say, even dicey situation for the Sharks or anybody else to acquire him given the current conditions and situations. So Matvei Michkov is part of HK Sochi of the KHL. He's under contract with them right now. Usually with these players, I'm saying this is the last team they played for. No, this is his current team for a couple more years. More on that in just a second. Born December 9th, 2004, so not even 20 years old, from Perm, Russia. Stands 5 feet 10 inches, but weighs just 148 pounds. I'm jealous, number one. I'd like to cut down to that weight. But that is one of the lower numbers you will see in the draft class. Not something immediately concerning. He'll fill out. He's 19 years old. Let's not make this too personal. And with professional trainers, and he's a professional player right now. But when he gets to that next level, and when his body matures and gets older, I have no doubt that's gonna take care of itself. Because I'm sure that will be a topic of conversation. A left shot, plays right wing, and wears the birdcage, just like Brazil when he's out there on the ice. All right, a couple different write-ups here. Let's begin with what the HockeyWriters.com says. Michkov is aggressive and confident with the puck. He's willing to try things that other players wouldn't dream of, and he's able to try those things because he is successful more often than not. He's the type of player that, quote, puts on a show and will sell tickets as he gets older. Something to think about. It's a very good perspective right there. But it's not just about his dazzling moves or how confident he is in the offensive zone. None of that matters if there aren't results to back it all up. They also go on to spell out this. The other more notable concern teams will have to weigh is his current commitment to play in Russia. Last year, he signed a contract extension with SKA St. Petersburg that will keep him in the Eastern Hemisphere in Russia through the 25-26 season. This means that any team considering drafting him will have to be willing to wait a few years before they can inject his talent into their lineup. It's not dissimilar to the situation the Minnesota Wild faced with Kirill Kaprizov. Kaprizov was a 2015 draft pick that didn't make his debut with the Wild until 2020. Yeah, you remember that in the crazy season, I guess, 20 into 21. But it's one of those things that you would have to wait this out for a couple more years. Now, maybe you were going to wait it out anyway. Maybe he would be in the American Hockey League for a couple years anyway. But you don't really have the choice. He is committed to being in Russia through 25-26. So that's something to think about right there. You can draft him, you can have the rights to the player, but you can't actually have his services for quite some time. And then when you get into that gray area of a couple more years, could anything happen between now and then? Like, what is the certainty you will actually get the player? Strengths from the HockeyWriters.com are listed like this. Most creative player in the draft. I think that says a lot. Shot and scoring ability. He creates his own chances. He's got an elusive skating stride. Super important for a dynamic winger like this. Stick handling and the it factor, which doesn't even need description. The it factor. Like the fact that they said he's going to sell tickets later on in his career. That's pretty awesome. I mean, if you like Kaprizov, who wouldn't want this player? And I don't even think we've scratched the surface on Kirill Kaprizov. What is under construction for Michkov? Utilization of teammates. But again, maybe he's one of the youngest, most talented guys out there, and he's trying to put on a show. Defensive play. I mean, I think that's always going to be a criticism of a player who's so good offensively that it's hard for their defense to match what their offense can do at this point. Back checking, wow, that's very specific. They'd like to see more back checking from Michkov. That goes to with the defensive play. And then just overall strength. That probably has to do with not the height, but the weight of the player. Okay, then there's this from The Athletic. If he was guaranteed to be coming to the NHL next fall, and if he was a center, he'd have a nearly perfect profile for me. And I don't remember the author of this, but I digress. He's different than Bedard in tools and approach. Michkov's brilliance comes primarily from his ability to read and process the play at an extremely advanced level, make decisions quickly, and execute on them with incredible consistency, whether that's ripping a pattern shot, his one-timer, his standstill wrister, his curl and drag, etc., a quick move into a pass, a sudden stop-up, or an attacking cut. When he tries things, and he often does, he's never trying them out of desperation, but rather intention. So, you're getting a good player, you're getting a showman in Matvei Michkov. Is it Matvei? Matvei? We'll find out. But this is an interesting player. It's a dynamic player. It comes with, like I said, that caveat. So let's dive into that here from the Sharks' perspective. You know, you're realistically probably still a couple years away from peaking where you want to be and having a Michkov on your team. But the question is, you know, several more seasons committed in Russia without maybe the hands-on approach. I don't know how much you can work with the player when he's got his own team out there. He's committed. Who really knows? And especially for the Sharks, who at this point need to make surefire moves rather than gamble moves. And a lot of teams, I guess, are like that. I shouldn't say that's unique to the Sharks, but, you know, is it a matter of passing on Michkov because, like, if you get the third pick, is a Leo Carlsson more attractive because you know you can instantly get your hands on him and have him in your pipeline and have your coaches working with him? Like, I just going back to the Kirill Kaprizov analogy, great player. Minnesota Wild, they put in their patience, they got a player, and like I said, we haven't even scratched the surface on him yet. But do you really want to go that route? That's an interesting question for the Sharks and for everybody else. And with a lot of people understanding Bedard and Fantilli are number 1 and 2, and maybe Matvei Michkov goes at number 3, maybe Leo Carlsson is the way it works out for San Jose. The number 4 like ranked prospect, the number 4 overall pick. Maybe there's that synergy, and maybe we get 2 Carlsons in the organization once again. So we're here to discuss Leo Carlsson, what it means from the Sharks' perspective later on in this video. But first, let's dive into the player profile. Orebro HK. Did I say that right? I know I researched the pronunciation. Orebro of the Swedish Hockey League. I'm sorry if I got that wrong. Sorry, Douglas Murray and Erik Karlsson. Born the day after Christmas, or Boxing Day for you Canadians, 2004, from Karlstad, Sweden. Wait, Leo Carlsson is from Karlstad, Sweden? I mean, when he was growing up, he must have had a lot of fun with that. Like, yep, this is where I'm from. Stands 6'3", 194 pounds. So kind of like Fantilli, one of the bigger boys in this draft. I mean, Michkov was 5'10", 150 pounds or something like that. So this is a much more physically developed player who shoots left, can play both center and wing. I mean, obviously, if you're a centerman, you can likely play wing. Not all wings can play center. I'll give you a couple of the different write-ups here on Leo Carlsson, and then, like I said, we'll circle back to the Sharks' perspectives. Carlsson is a very strong and talented playmaker that shows excellent poise and confidence when he has control of the puck. And if I didn't mention it before, this is from thehockeywriters.com. From his puck handling to constantly finding the open spaces, everything he does is effortless. A natural center, he has seen time on the wing, but no matter what position he plays, he remains extremely effective as he lets his skill set and high-end IQ take over any situation. He's extremely calm, and he shows no panic in high-pressure situations as his awareness and smarts allow him to be a threat in all 3 zones to find the open space and attack. Even at the 2023 World Junior Championships, he was given every opportunity to succeed in a top-line role, and he certainly made an impact with 6 points in 7 games. The strengths and things to work on for Carlsson, as written up here by thehockeywriters.com, go like this. Strengths are an elite level IQ, hockey IQ that's always discussed, and great to see that he's got it. Work ethic, really like that. Puck protection, soft hands and playmaking. They say he's a smooth skater, but what sweet isn't? And a good net front presence. Now, I'm assuming that's on the defensive side or offensive side, but it could also be on the defensive side too. What's under construction to improve his top speed, and also maybe a little bit of uncertainty. Is he more of a winger? Is he a bona fide centerman in the league? So you're getting a top quality forward. The fact that he's got the experience of both, we'll see where a team could utilize him. I've also stated this before on prior videos. I don't expect Leo Carlsson to be up at the NHL level starting next year. Bedard, yes. Fantilli might get a call up. Michkov is committed to Russia for a couple years, so not saying that Carlsson couldn't be ready for the NHL at some point next year. I don't think anybody is necessarily projecting that, though. Okay, then this from The Athletic. Carlsson's a big kid who has begun to come into his body. He added 10 pounds last offseason to bring him to 6'3" and 194 pounds. But he's also got slick skill to complement his size and regularly makes plays and manufactures offense for himself through the little shakes, beating defenders one-on-one with his hands or outweighting them in puck protection off of his hip. He's already a very heady player who understands spacing and timing on and off the puck too. Very important, right? What's he doing off the puck? And while he played exclusively as a winger in the Swedish league in the last 2 seasons, Carlsson came up as a center, and I like the way his game might fit there long-term because of his combination of strength, detail, and awareness. So there you go. That is from The Athletic. Okay, as I mentioned, the Sharks with a fourth worst record. Carlsson projected as the 4th pick in the draft. I think you're pretty satisfied if you add Leo Carlsson to your team. And I think there's a lot of upside here. I think that there's a trajectory. There's a known process. Might be a couple years away. Again, this is something that, if you're choosing a baseline of how the lottery could play out, as I make this video, we have no choice. We have no choice. We don't have any choice. We don't have any knowledge of where the Sharks will pick. But in terms of the choice they make, maybe a 3rd pick might even see them take Leo Carlsson. If you don't want to, navigate the unknowns with Michkov and how many years it might take before he's done. He's committed in Russia through 25, 26. So maybe Carlsson is the 3rd pick for a team. Maybe for the Sharks, Leo Carlsson is not even there at the 4th pick because he's selected 3rd overall. That would not surprise me either. But it's a very forward-heavy group of players at the very top, and that's where the Sharks are going to pick. So they could very well get a forward just like, or actually is, Leo Carlsson. I know there's a lot of Will Smiths out there in the world, and even in the sports community, tons of people with that name, but for whatever reason, whenever I see it, whenever I say it, all I can really think of is the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. No disrespect to hockey's Will Smith, who is going to be drafted pretty high in the 2023 NHL draft. I'm doing a player preview profile, whatever you want to call it. Let's talk about Will Smith. Later on, we'll get into the Sharks' chances of drafting a player like this, also what he would mean to the organization from a teal-tinted perspective. But yeah, how many people are going to play off the Will Smith headline? If he gets drafted by Chicago, the Fresh Prince of Chicago or something like that, whatever. Is there a team with black in the color? He could be a Men in Black, that too. Sorry, Will. We didn't need all that. Most recent team, Team USA, the under-18s, born March 17th, 2005, hailing from Lexington, Massachusetts. And I got to say, a lot of people have projected Will Smith in different spots being drafted. I'm just happy to see that he's one of the lone Americans projected in like the top 5, top 7. So I definitely wanted to include Will Smith here in the conversation. Stands exactly 6 feet tall, 172 pounds, so pretty good frame to work with already. You know that, 18, 19 years old here. He's definitely going to fill out when the time comes. He's a right shot and plays center. I also like the fact that he's already put on the colors of our country. I think that means a lot. And whether it's at a under 18 age, or whether it's, after that, at some point in your career when you're good enough to say you're on Team USA, that fast tracks a player. I feel like that brings you up in a different way. You've got a certain status about you, and you know what you have to live up to when you put that sweater on. I'll give you a couple different write-ups here on Smith, beginning with the hockeywriters.com. And then, like I said, later on, we'll circle back to the Sharks' perspective. What if they draft Will Smith in the next couple months here? Smith attracts a lot of attention in the offensive zone, drawing multiple defenders in his gravity before making a deft pass out of pressure to one of his lucky teammates. He has a ton of deception built into his game and is capable of faking opponents with his head, eyes, shoulders, and skates. Is this Joe Thornton Part 2? It's very difficult for defenders to predict where he'll go next. And as soon as they commit one way, he zips off in another. Smith's skating might limit him a little bit in the NHL, as it won't look quite as great against professional competition, though his hands and playmaking are so good that it might be a non-factor. The Hockey Writers goes on here to list some strengths and some things under construction for Smith. They list his two-way game as a strength, which is nice to see because a lot of young players are highly touted with the puck, and without it, especially when your team's on defense, back-checking, being a two-way player, it's not necessarily a compliment that goes all the way around everybody. So I'm glad to see it here. Deception, confidence, and maybe that was the Team USA part of it I talked about. That's great that he's got it. Stick handling, makes plays at high speed, which he'll definitely need to do at the NHL level. Okay, here's what's under construction, they say. Skating isn't dynamic, maybe a little bit more safer decision-making, and a better physical game. But again, that could come, and that'll have to come at the NHL level. Okay, here's what The Athletic says. Crafty is the best word to describe Smith's game. He impresses with his smarts with the puck, his cerebral play style, and his ability to play to his line mates. Smith is one of the very best slot passers in the draft and uses impressive puck handling ability to dodge closeouts, weave off the wall, and make plays through holes in coverage and possession with ease, regularly hanging onto pucks to delay and fake his way into his spots. He's the kind of player who can beat you with a pass, a dangerous wrister. In fact, while he has played facilitator so often in games this year, he's got an excellent wrister while moving, or a deke. He's also well regarded as a great kid who is easy to coach and understands the finer details of the game required of a center. So you know what? Of all the players that we've heard, wristers, scoring ability, prowess, playmaking, but it seems like Will Smith is the player that's going to say, hey, follow me, chase me, find me. Oh, just gave it to my teammate, my line mate. We scored. Of all the superstars that, are the goal scorers, you need the players like this. And we talked in a different video about, Connor Bedard specifically. If you draft him, you're not done there. You've got to build around Connor Bedard. And if you've got a great team, you're always going to need a player like Will Smith that's going to find teammates. Again, circle back to Jumbo for all of those years. Like, do a scouting profile of Joe Thornton. Sure, he can score, but come on. The guy's passing ability, would you pass on that if I said you could draft that? Now, again, just like I'm not going to, I said getting the number one pick would be the luckiest thing more than drafting Marlowe. I mean, I'm also not going to compare Bedard to Jumbo. I'm not going to compare Bedard to Patty. I'm not going to compare Will Smith to Jumbo. But like, if we're going down that road, I don't think anybody in Sharks territory would be upset about that. Now, there is this, which I should say, Will Smith is probably projected to go fourth, fifth, sixth. I've seen him in a lot of different places. The point being here, if the Sharks are selecting him, they're already at a spot where they'll feel at a disadvantage because fourth worst record, you'd hope to at least get the fourth overall pick. There may be some other players lined up for them ahead of Will Smith. Maybe not. Maybe they've seen him. Maybe they know something. But at the same perspective, you would not be upset to get Will Smith. I think with the draft lottery on Monday, May 8th, you would hope than at least a fourth pick or higher. And a fourth pick or higher might get you a different player than Will Smith. But again, if you draft him, I think you would be pretty satisfied. You made it all the way here to the end of the video, so thumbs up on that if you would. I'd really appreciate it. Also, don't forget, subscribe to the channel so that I can see you and more of these videos pretty soon.